Randy, you are obviously not in the legislature to vote on this legislation, but had you been there, how would you have voted?
I would have voted a big fat no. Let me tell you. Let me tell you what the definition of chaos is. Chaos is criminals with easy access to guns. Chaos is mentally unstable individuals with easy access to guns. I'm a trauma surgeon. I deal with patients who are shot, murdered, maimed by weapons frequently. I recently had a little boy who was 7. He was shot standing at his front door while criminals exchanged gunfire in the street. He died. This is a big problem. We can do better at keeping guns out of the hands of those who should not have them, criminals and mentally unstable individuals. What can we do? We can use comprehensive background checks. Ethan, these background checks were in the study you referred to, and the conclusion was they work. I read that study, you referred to it many times. The conclusion of this study was background checks work. We need background checks to rent an apartment. We need background checks to get a loan. We need background checks to get a new job. But we don't need background checks to buy a lethal weapon that could kill a little boy standing at his front door. What else can we do? We can make parent education on guns in the home through the pediatrician easier to do. Pediatricians want to do this. They think it makes sense. They think it will work. But there's a lot of resistance to it currently. We can no longer ignore the safety concerns of a majority of our population. Many polls indicate that Americans, Arizonans, and even most NRA members want their leaders to address this problem and put forth the comprehensive background check legislation. It can be done. We can find middle ground. We can consider more than just one point of view. Just like medicine, prevention is the key, and we must do all we can to keep guns out of the hands of those who should not have them.
One of the reasons I voted for this legislation is particularly when you're dealing with the Second Amendment or guns, you cannot have chaos. There are 91 different cities in this community. If you start creating each municipality with its own law, and you create a situation where someone could leave Marana, drive through Tucson or Sarita, and have 3 different sets of laws pertaining to the Second Amendment, I think that is a recipe for chaos. The other thing, we were talking about people with concealed carry permits. Now, I know this is an extremely emotional and difficult subject, and it's extremely difficult to think about it rationally, but sometimes you have to. People with CCWs have a lower than average criminality rate, lower than police officers. If you want to solve the problem, you look at the training for people with that. And one of the things that's so important is let's start talking about how we solve the problem. I know there have been mass casualties here, and we've all been affected by it, and it's awful. And I want to make sure that people are safe and never affected by that again. That's why I supported the mental health first aid. That's why we expanded the judicial hold for people with mental illness. That's why we added a prohibited class, people with mental illness, to the prohibited users. It's why I worked with the governor to get more funding after Sandy Hook, more funding for school resource officers to protect our children. And it's why right now I'm working with the city. We found some funding. I went to the budget line by line last year, and I found some funds for our city that could be used for police overtime and equipment grants. We need to deal with this very sensitive, very emotional, very personal issue in a pragmatic, sensible way. We need to follow the academic research and do things that are statistically significant, not symbolic, in terms of affecting our crime. And if you look at all the criminal justice academic research, it supports the policies that I created. One of the things I see some people disagreeing, read the University of Columbia meta study that came out just a few years ago. They show that the policies that I've been pursuing, actually for 18 years,